kind of what I wanted to do today is give you a very brief overview of the process of upgrading and migrating to Iris. I want to make sure I've got my recording going here, so bear with me. The first section of this is going to be really a kind of an overview about what the technical benefits are about going to Iris, but as well as giving a view of what that may mean from a business standpoint. Somebody said they can barely hear me. I'll try to speak up. Luckily, we got this working, at least that part. Let me see if I can change my volume. Is that better, people, Larry? Okay, good. So hopefully everybody can hear me. Let me back up one slide. I got kind of jumped ahead here trying to get this working. Really, there's also business benefits to this. If you look at the capability that we built into Iris, if we think about some of the things we've done just internally, there's a huge amount of gains in database journaling and SQL performance, and we'll talk about that. I think some of the bigger pieces for people are our capability to be cloud and container ready. I know a lot of our customers maybe are not ready to move to both cloud or container, but it is a better choice for people that are going into agile development cycles, continuous improvement or continuous delivery, a place where they can deploy to either your own public cloud or a private cloud like Azure or GCP. You may not use it for production. We have some customers that are using it as a kind of a hybrid environment where they're using a container for environments as well as their on-premise database environment, so it can be used as hybrids. I see people using it as a function for people that are doing demos or salespeople, customer training, so they can set up and run containers in an easy, repeatable fashion. There's a new technology we've introduced with Iris is the API management. We'll talk a little bit about that, as well as giving the capability to attract more people to your environment. You know, we've enhanced our client support. We've done a bold moves in trying to get things like the InterSystems Open Exchange, a developer community, a way to communicate. We'll talk a little more about that. But the very basis of everything is we want InterSystems Iris to be your foundation for innovation. You can see stuff in the healthcare side. We see in FHIR, and the FHIR repository as being a place where a lot of our healthcare customers are moving to. But for everybody, a way to look at things like analysis, analytics, AI, and machine learning with some of the stuff we built into adapters to get access to large volumes of data from Iris very quickly. Part of our principle is we want to make sure this is just acceptable and easy to do and predictable, especially when you're in a place where a lot of our customers may have 300 or 400 sites they're going to have to migrate through. We want to make this as predictable and repeatable as possible. And so we published a couple of the guides. The first one is an Iris adoption guide. It really talks about the new things in Iris, things that are changed, things that have been deprecated, as well as things that have been modified or are kind of generalized that may have been referenced in Cache in the past. The InPlace conversion guide is something we work really hard at to try to keep you from, as a customer, from having to go through a lot of the manual effort to change naming conventions, moving databases, those kind of things, as a way to make it easy, as easy a process as we can to get this conversion done in place without having to set up a new instance and migrate all the data and everything else over. These are going to help you. They're going to help you get resources. Somebody says they still can't hear me. Larry, is anybody else having an issue? Lyle says he can hear you. I can hear. Stuart says he can hear fine. So I'm not sure. Okay, I'll keep going. Maybe we can figure out this. This is being recorded, So if we do miss this, and for the people that can't hear me, hopefully they can replay this on the website and get the audio fine. The second piece of that is, because there's a lot of changes, is with the migration to Iris, there's going to be things that are going to be in your application that maybe we don't have visibility to, that you're going to require some changes to codes, maybe some scripts, configuration scripts, install scripts, things like that. A lot of what that's done, we've done a lot of that internally, and I think the best place to use a resource for that would be go back to your sales engineer, as well as our WRC, which we've got set up to help you plan and upgrade that those deployed systems into InterSystems Iris. So let's take a break. Let's kind of look at an overview of this. And this is not going to be really technical, but just an idea that from where we were at 2018.1 in terms of performance for just database performance. Now, these are just writes to databases, so updates to the database. You can see in many cases, those three examples, we've practically doubled the performance improvement throughout. Now, you might think, well, and what that helps do is for people that are looking at it from a business standpoint, with the mergers and acquisitions that are happening today, especially in the healthcare market, where you're having to look at additionally onboarding maybe another hospital or maybe a clinic, this performance improvement will allow you to maintain the same level of hardware and operating system that you're working at today, that maybe double your throughput. So in a way where you can onboard more people without having to do migrations of hardware or operating system upgrades, this is an impressive benefit that you have to be able to keep that existing footprint that you already have in your environments, and maybe not put your customers through the stress of looking at new hardware platforms. The other benefit of this is because database performance is directly related to things like, in the case where we're looking at Ensemble or Health Connect, that because we're writing through things or database quicker, the benefit is that in the Ensemble or Health Connect environment, because we're persisting all those messages, you're going to benefit as well by having those information written quicker to disk, as well as being able to get that message from point A to point B in a much quicker fashion. So this is kind of an indirect benefit where we're seeing database performance go across the board through all systems. Second piece of this is journal recording. So to make sure that we give you a durable environment, we're dependent on making sure that we get that data written to the journal so it can be used through things like mirroring, fault tolerance, high availability. So as we get quicker and quicker to get this database writes to physical disk, the faster your all throughput is going to be through all the examples. And you can see here, one of the exercises too, we've tripled the improvement in performance between 2018 and 2019.2. And the last piece of this is on the query side, is because you're dependent on getting data out through larger and larger sets of data, the volume of data is going to be there, that getting queries out for analytics purposes, we've dramatically improved performance between 2017. We've done things like having all the parallelizing we can do as part of that query being done automatically. So you don't have to go through and add those parallelized queries into your systems. We'll take care of that as we can recognize it as part of the query optimizer to parallelize those queries. On top of that, some of the things you'll see in the benefit when we look at taking data through our sharding environment and moving it through parallel environments, we can have different sets of hardware running these queries, spread those queries across multiple platforms, and then gather that information back as a single point without you having to do anything or know anything about the fact that the data is sharded. It's completely invisible to an end user. So these performance improvements are going to broadly impact your performance through the system. It's just going to be, hopefully it's just going to be peppier, it's going to be quicker, and you won't see any downstream effects, nor do you have to make any changes in your application code to make sure that that happens. Let's talk a little bit about containers. And we've done this through the Global Summit. If anybody attended that, we've had many sessions on InterSystems Iris. We do provide a thing called the InterSystems Cloud Manager that allows you to be able to deploy and spin up or provision environments that in a quicker environment as well as a repeatable environment. This is the piece where I think the repeatability of being able to deploy InterSystems Iris to your customers in a way that you can depend on is a way to, is a selling point to making it maintenance and that management of those downstream customer systems more efficient and more repeatable, as well as the fact that we want to have that as a place, as an advantage for our customers that have maybe prospects that are out there looking in environments where maybe our competitors are touting the fact that they're cloud ready and they're in an environment where it's cloud ready, but it's not really a high performing environment. We give you the benefit of having both. You can bring your production environments to both your own private cloud. You can have a hybrid environment where you can have some things that are cloud-based and some things that are not, because using ECP and through some of our technologies, you can use that federated environment to move data in and out and scale as you need. The other piece of that is being able to just adopt this incrementally. You know, some of our customers we've seen using it as a training platform because it's easy just to spin up those places, those instances, and have a place where it's readily available for sales teams that they can just point to the cloud and bring up a demo that may be of your applications that you need to show to a customer quickly. You can just point there without having to carry a laptop around all the time with everything set up for your demos. The other piece of this is we're not going away from the traditional environments. I understand, and everybody understands at InterSystems that those environments are necessary, and many deployment models are necessary to make sure that you can do fault tolerance, high availability, manage risk, everything you're thinking about that you would see as a on-premise environment is still there. Those are still fully supported and will continue to be fully supported for a long time coming. We'll never see that go away. But the fact that we can now blend these environments together with one over the other makes it a huge benefit in terms of scalability and performance, as well as deploying rapidly throughout whatever environments you're exploring. Iris is container ready. You know, we're ready. We deliver a lot of our applications internally even. Our sales trainings, our learning center is using containers to deliver sales training as well as customer training. It's similar for the people that aren't familiar. It's similar to the fact that you're using where you've often used VMs. It's a lighter weight environment. We've seen hybrid environments. I have customers that are using containers in environments where they have a lot of applications on the front end. Their application servers are using containers so they can deploy their code rapidly, but their back end is still a database on-premise environment where they can get throughput. They have control. Maybe they have backup and fault tolerance there that they need to supply that for their customers. So this hybrid environment works really well to get you into a process of making migrations and database and code deployments quicker and faster in that environment. I told you, we've seen it internally. We've used it internally for our stuff, but if you want to look at being able to separate, this makes a good place to define and deliver a place where you have data in one environment and code in another environment, so that it kind of gives you the capability of separating this to make your systems more reliable, more securable, as well as more repeatable, which is, for us as a customer, feedback is we get that environment where we want to be able to do this as a repeatable way that we can deploy our changes quickly and rapidly throughout. Again, the same thing I talked about. Those traditional deployments are still available. They're not going away. We're just giving you the capability from a business perspective to say you're container ready. As our customers, you're container ready. You're ready. We support you. We have facilities involved that allow you to move these things quickly and forward. In fact, if you've not paid attention to it in the WRC, we're delivering container-only application platforms for Iris in the interim releases. So the interim releases that you can get quickly, sometimes as quickly as a couple of weeks, We'll give you new containers so you can start testing your code. You can start looking at what we're doing, the futures of what we're putting into Iris before it ever goes to a full-blown GA release. So we're migrating those as quickly as we can, and we're giving you the guys the data and the code as quickly as we can deliver it. And in fact, many of your customers are already used to this. They're just getting upgrades from their cell phones, from their their iPads, anything. This is just following in line with the way that we hope our customers move forward in a way that they can deliver their applications quicker. One of the things we just introduced here as part of the Iris platform, and it is really only on Iris, it's not going to be back into Cache or Ensemble, is a feature that lets you build API management into your products so you can use our tools to be able to publish or consume APIs that you need throughout your platform and your enterprise. So with the API management technology we have, it allows you to meter and monitor and secure their use. So you can throttle them. There's capabilities to throttle and to monitor. The biggest thing we've seen customers that are looking at this is a way to monetize your application. So you can actually go out there and begin to sell that API access either to maybe data that you have that you're looking to reshare and to be able to benefit from, as well as being able to control who has access to those in a much tighter fashion. This is, I think, a huge benefit from what I've seen is a way to put a fence around your applications and your data, but still sell that and use that out as a business incentive to say, hey, I've got a lot of data that's worthwhile, and maybe it can be used for clinical trials, maybe it can be used for research, maybe it can be used for other things, but this is a way to kind of put that fence out as well as advertise out that you have an application that has some benefit to the outside world. It's not something that's a separate product. It's built only in Iris, so it requires that environment. It's marketed, not marketed, it's licensed separately. So if you want to have that capability, talk to your sales reps or your account managers and explore this. It's pretty exciting. We've got a lot of customers that are moving from a traditional environment of just the REST and SOAP environments to an API-based proxy environment that they can control and secure more effectively. And some of the things that we've put into 2019.1 is just across the board benefits for everybody. The first piece of that with those client language enhancements is really to give people, as well as yourself, your development staff, a way to make a choice. We've opened up relational access for things like Python and other places. We've made native APIs to places where you can make a choice and attract more people to your platforms to develop against, as well as to promote for your customers to maybe enhance or innovate your applications in an environment that they need to expand. I talked a little bit about this earlier, is that automatic parallelization of queries, where we can define those and our optimizer can detect those. We do that as built in. So again, you're going to get the benefit of having that high-speed access. It could be across a sharded environment, in a parallel environment where we got data spread across many physical devices, but to your applications, you don't need to know that. You can get the benefit indirectly and invisibly, essentially, from what we've done. We've done things like added parallelization to the JDBC driver itself. So those are things those benefits that you get indirectly just by migrating from your current environment, either Cache or Ensemble, into InterSystems Iris. I want to mention a little bit about interoperability. The fire has been a hot one, not a pun, but that's just really true. We've seen that adoption probably fairly rapid in our environment, where we're dealing with both consumers as well as publishers of data that want to get data in a message or a CCDA or a CDA to an environment where maybe it's a mobile environment, we've seen the FHIR be that mechanism to be able to deliver that discrete amount of resource data about a patient, their medications or allergies in a way that's very lightweight and very transparent, I guess, from the standpoint that it's the same format that happens at the data level as it does at the message level. So we're not having to do a lot of handling and translation of data across those boundaries. If you've not been to the Global Summit website yet and looked at recordings, there's some improvements to things like data transformation, rules editors in the Ensemble and Health Connect environment that will be very interesting to people, as well as things like interface maps that let you take data from other sources and other interoperability platforms and move them quickly into an Ensemble or Health Connect environment. We'll take just a brief break. I don't think anybody's going to drop off because, but this is just a place to let the people that are maybe more business-minded or looking at marketing, how to get InterSystems Iris interested by the customers. We'll take a break, and one thing we won't talk about going forward is we won't talk about licensing for the people they're going to drop off. They need to contact their account manager, their sales reps, to talk about licensing. There are some fundamental differences between the way we license in Iris as opposed to what we did in Cache and Ensemble. So most of those are beneficial to the business people when it comes to sizing and building deals that may be involving what would be user-based licensing or core-based licensing. So those are discussions to be had probably as a one-on-one, because a lot of the things we try to do with our customers is try to match and parallel the way we market and license stuff to the way you as a customer markets and license stuff. And let me just dive in a little bit. I'm not going to get very technical here, but a lot of this is directed at just where to find resources and where to find the documents you need to. If you guys are not already involved and have a WRC account, I suggest that you do contact the WRC and log in and get a user account for everybody. And these two pieces you see here below, the Iris Adoption Guide as well as the InPlace Conversion Guide, are all available off of your WRC account. So if you log in and go to the InterSystems Distributions Doc section, you can download those. Take a look at those. Comment, please, back to both your sales rep as well as your sales engineer if you have concerns that aren't addressed there, and we will take care of that. And these are all living documents. As we've learned, we've had field tests of both these guys over the past year and a half or so. But now bear in mind these two today, that InPlace Conversion Guide is only for Cache and Ensemble. There's going to be a InPlace Conversion Guide for Health Connect and what we call Iris for Health that will be out probably towards the end of November, first part of December, that will have you with that conversion in mind towards that Health Connect or what we would call before Health Share Foundation. The adoption guide really goes into a lot of the things that we've done. This is kind of like the release notes you would get as part of the normal Cache or Ensemble upgrade process. It goes into a little bit more detail in terms of what things have to change. Some of the things we look at that we've changed before, things like catalog names, and we've eliminated the cache.exe. It becomes iris.db. So you'll see if you use scripts that reference cache.dats, those will need to be modified to change into iris.dat. Some of the other things we've genericized, like cache.jdbc, is going to turn into the InterSystems.jdbc. Some of the things in the catalog of class names and library classes have been changed. Things like you'll see cache file stream and other things that we've used that may have cache in the name. We've either genericized those to be InterSystems or we've changed them to Iris. So make sure that you read this quickly and closely to make sure that we've covered the things that you need, as well as the things that you need to focus on. Definitely testing is a big. You have times that you're going to test. The best time to do would be maybe to contact the WRC ahead of time if you're going to do a live test or going to do a test system, just so that we're involved and we're aware that you're making this move to the migration and the adoption. Some of the things we've also done is tightened up some of the things that before were optional are now defaults. So you'll see tightening. We've done some of those. A lot of those are based on the fact that we need to tighten things for security reasons. So things that were defaults or optional before are now being more strictly enforced. There's a catalog of things that we've retired or deprecated. Like Mojo is not going to go; it's going away. The visual reports is there, but it's available as a kit add-on. So it's not something that's delivered as part of the platform, but it is available for your migration or help with your migration. The InPlace conversion guide tries to take a lot of the things that would be your headache and move them into a place where we can do the upgrades and the InPlace conversions automatically. We go through and here's just a list of things that we've done as part of this process. We retain a lot of your settings, your security settings, your CSP settings are all retained. I think the biggest piece to note on this slide is the things like as part of security and maintenance and migration pieces, we've removed the samples, ENS demo, and doc books as an automatic install. So the samples and ENS demo are available today on our developer community. So if you need examples that maybe you need to provide to your customer of how to, set up a particular interface, or if you're letting them expand your model, those won't be pointed to in the samples or an ENS demo. So you need to either go through take the time to include those as part of what you deliver as part of your install, or point them to the GitHub locations where we have samples and ENS demo. DocBook can be installed separately. It's part of the install, but it's not being done automatically. So it reduces a little bit of the overhead, the size of what gets installed, as well as for people that don't want to provide, as an end user, the document database and the search capability. Those can be installed as a manual option. We've renamed those things where we do find them. Things like the cache.sys, we named to IrisSys. We've upgraded the Ensemble and cache databases to their Iris names. So cache.lib goes to IrisLib, so forth. So if you have anything that you're referencing in those as part of your code, you need to make sure that those references get changed. I think the big piece for people that do the installs and the migrations is the cache.cpf file is now an iris.cpf. We change it to an iris format, so it's not something that you can just copy over and rename. It is a different format for reasons that we can use to make sure we identify the iris environment and identify the capabilities that iris provides. So if you're upgrading, place to get started. I mentioned the adoption guide. You can download the kit. There's actually an evaluation site now that will allow you to download the IRIS 2019.1.1 without a key. The key will be issued automatically. You can get that from our evaluation site. I would make sure you contact the WRC for information on that evaluation environment to make sure that you get it. Bear in mind that upgrading to IRIS requires that you be on 2016.2 or higher, as well as being on supported platforms. We moved, especially in the Windows environment, the requirement to support Windows 10 and higher is there. So in case you're in an environment where maybe you're running 2016.2, but you're not running in the Windows 10 64-bit environment, let's make sure you move to that first before. And the biggest reference that you guys have today is going to be from your sales engineer. They'll know your specifics in environments, specifics on your licenses, and making sure that they give you the right environment keys that you need to support things that you have, as well as to make sure that any ad hocs that you've been issued get migrated as part of that kit going forward, so that you're up to date with whatever changes that might be specific to a particular install of your own, as well as maybe an install for your customer. If you're not on 2016.2, if you're on like 2015 or hopefully not 14, move and migrate to that 16.2 platform first. Move that one then to an environment that's on a supported platform. So make sure you look at the release notes and the adoption guide that talks about what platforms are there. There's a key there about migrating also in a mirrored environment, where you can migrate from a cache or ensemble environment that's been mirrored into a Iris platform. So make sure you have particular, pay particular attention to the steps. They're pretty detailed in the way they outline those in the InPlace conversion guide, as well as the adoption guide, that tells you how the steps you can use to upgrade your backup, your secondary failover from the primary to the secondary, upgrade the primary. So follow those. If you have questions, make sure you call the WRC. We have a focus team at InterSystems for Iris migration. These people have done those. In fact, there's actually been several that have been demoed. One was demoed at Global Summit that showed you the InPlace conversion guide migration from a cache environment to an Iris 2019.1 environment. The best advice I give you, again, is just to make sure your sales engineers are involved. Make sure if you've got a TAM or somebody that's assigned to you from the WRC, advise them just so they're aware that you're making this migration, or you're making a test migration, to keep everybody informed on our side, so we're ready and available to help you as quickly as soon as possible. And I think this is kind of really just a wrap up of what I've talked about through this session. Talk to your account manager when it comes to the licensing issues, as well as the capabilities you may need from sales engineering to help do your migrations. Look at those recordings. They're available for free online from Global Summit 2019. If you don't find something, email the WRC, contact the WRC. Maybe it's in a different location, but I think everything that's been presented at Global Summit is going to be available as well as in both a PowerPoint version as well as the audio version that goes along with it. If you're not a member already of the community, get involved with and sign up in the developers community. There's going to be many articles that have been released, as well as articles from our engineers to talk about the capabilities and future capabilities of things like Iris, PMML, machine learning, AI, examples of all those where you can make use of and leverage those capabilities natively, because they're not something that's an add-on any longer. I mean, as part of this adoption of Iris is when you get Iris, you get everything. You get interoperability, you get the capability to do machine learning and PMML, you get sharding. So things that might have been outside of your view or global view because of a licensing capability or some other things. Expand your knowledge base. Look at those as innovation platforms that you can use to make things in your product unique that are exciting to your customers. So go in and look at that community. Contribute to the community, because we have a thing called Open Exchange, where maybe even part of your customer base would be able to make use of things that you would publish on our Open Exchange, which is really a platform to submit additions to InterSystems Iris platforms to provide particular capabilities that might be good and usable throughout the InterSystems family of partners. 2 websites I got listed here. If you want to take a click and look at those. I didn't go into much about InterSystems for Iris today, but there's going to be more coming out about that in the next weeks when we release the version for Iris. And make sure just attend. There's webinars. There's learning at learning.intersystems.com. There's webinars that are being published on things that people have done, both our customers, our engineers have done, and review those. Take the training. The training's all free. Everything's there, is auditable. It's a place where you can take it at your own pace. So it's something, it's a wealth of resources that we've put a lot of stress and a lot of work into over the last couple of years to make sure that we provide more and more information into your hands that you're ready to use and to keep you abreast to all the changes that are going on inside of InterSystems, not only just from the development side, but marketing. What are we doing to market and help our awareness across the board for everybody to make sure that InterSystems Iris is a well-known, reliable, scalable platform. I think that's it for today. We've got time for a few questions. If anybody has questions, can open it up now and take a few minutes. If not, I will give you back part of your day. I haven't seen any questions yet. If this recording is going to be out there, it'll be published on the website. So if you want to follow up with this and then get in contact with your sales engineers or account managers, if you don't know who those are, you can call in and look at the WRC. They have a list of everybody's current account listings and who their SEs are. So that's your best contact is the WRC, which is, for me, one of the best resources we have as a company to connect to in a way that they can get you any resource that you need. I appreciate everybody coming. I mean, if we don't have any questions, I will give you back your 15 minutes of this hour, and hope to run into you soon. Take care, everyone. Thank you.